Are you a wealth architect? That's somebody who wants to grow in all areas of life, not only financially, but mentally, physically, and spiritually. This is exactly what we're doing every single week on this show. I'm Emilio DiSpirito, your host of the Wealth Architect podcast, each and every week here. Wherever you're tuning in, we're glad you're here. We hope that this episode inspires you, motivates you to do something big, and maybe even blows your mind. Make sure you comment and interact with us. We'd love to hear from you. Let's get started. A special thank you to our sponsor, Annie Mac Home Mortgage, whose Cash to Keys product is disrupting the industry. Sick and tired of finding the perfect home, not having your offer selected? I got to tell you, it happens all the time. With Cash to Keys, Annie Mac gives sellers a cash guarantee for each of their buyers' offers. Stop bidding and hoping. Instead, bid with Annie Mac and bid with confidence. Don't just bid, but win. Annie Mac Mortgage. When you're buying real estate, you need somebody that understands the ins and outs of the legal ends. It's so important to have the right attorney working for you. You also need a bulldog. Let me tell you something. The first time I sat in a conference room with this lady, Melissa Delana of Delana Law, I immediately knew she owned the room. You need an attorney that owns the room, that can solve problems and make things happen when everybody else can't. You want to hire Delana Law in Massachusetts, Connecticut, or Rhode Island. Delana Law delivers every single time. They're going to help you out with all of your real estate needs. It's delanalaw.com. You got to check them out.
Hello, everyone. Walt Buteau here in for Emilio DiSpirito on The Wealth Architect. This is Season 3. Episode 15, and Kate Benson, a first-time author, joins us now from Scottsdale, Arizona, where it is warmer than it is here in Rhode Island. Have you been to Rhode Island, Kate?
I have not. It's on my list, though.
Oh, it is not. Is it really on your? What number are we on your list?
It is. Well, there's quite a few of you up on the Northeast that I want to come visit, but summertime,
well,
or early
right.
fall.
So the big thing here is we don't get a spring. And so you go outside and you think it looks nice and you're still cold. And and I grew up in California, so it's frustrating. But in Arizona, you don't have that problem. So let's jump right into it. You have a journalism background, if you will. We were talking about that. That was your major in college, but you've sort of you've done travel writing, and now you have your first time, your first book. Tell us about it. Tell us about your book and what went into the idea behind it.
My book is Second Fiddle, and it is my personal story about love, identity, and the quiet strength it takes to stand beside someone with great ambition, all while still maintaining your own identity. So this idea kind of came about trying to explain to others exactly what it is that I do, like what my position is in life, and especially with Paul, my husband. So and I used to play violin many years ago. So I kind of bring in the literal and figurative meaning of second violin, because I physically was a second violin, so I could kind of bring that meaning into the everyday life.
It's interesting because obviously we use that cliche second fiddle, and I never thought about what it really meant. My daughter loves music, plays everything, but I'm from a relatively musical family, but I don't really play any instruments, so I'm naive to this part of the world. But when we talk second fiddle, first fiddle is obviously what? The stronger of the two violinists. So you're,
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry, explain that.
Oh no. Yeah, first violin is the leader in the orchestra, kind of sets the tone and the pace, and then everyone kind of follows suit. So they're in the spotlight. They're the top dog. When I was in orchestra, and none of this, I didn't actually knew what it meant to be second violin, until years later. So yeah, I start my book out with that actual physical meaning of second violin, of my experience, my very first experience as someone in the support role. and then kind of go into, didn't realize that that would translate all these years later into what I do today.
But you don't have an orchestra without the second fiddle. You don't have an right.
No, no. It really is the support system, the backbone, the one that kind of keeps rhythm, keeps pace, keeps everyone kind of going in line with the first violin.
And I think, and I obviously see where you're going with the book. Is it's a metaphor on, God, I can think of a bunch of things. It's a metaphor on whether it's on a basketball team where there's going to be a top scorer, there's going to be a second scorer, then there's going to be the guy that facilitates, helps those scores. Those two guys aren't as good as without that second, the third best player and the fourth best player, and you can take that to sports and you can take it to business. Correct? It applies to everything that we do. What motivated you to write the book?
It was a story that I think needed to be told. And to be honest, like throughout all this, I never really felt like a second fiddle in my life. So I'm very kind of fortunate that way. And my relationship and partnership with Paul, we always felt like a team. We worked so well, and it all flowed so well together, and we made this kind of perfect melody, as I would say in the book. And I knew my story was worth writing about and telling, because I've known others and know others in this position or role, and I wanted them to realize like how powerful a partnership can be. Being anyone that hears the term second fiddle, it doesn't always have like a positive connotation, and
No,
so
it is
no
not.
one's
It's
going
not.
around.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, no one's going around bragging about like, hey, look at me, I'm a second fiddle. But I really wanted to empower others and saying like, it's not a bad thing. Like being the support system is actually very important, and here's why. And I think you need to embrace it.
Well, tell us background wise for somebody who has no idea who your husband is and why are you second fiddle? You wrote a book, for crying out loud. You should be first fiddle.
Yes, well, many would say I am now. So yes, my husband is he's top real estate agent worldwide, and the biggest franchise owner with Engel and Volker. So he's kind of a top dog, has a lot on his plate, and he's always in the spotlight. So my role is to support him through all this, so to keep the rhythm going and steady at home, or whatever he kind of needs behind the scenes, to make sure that he can thrive in his work life and personal life. Like I make sure he takes care of himself, because people in that position kind of forget that the airplane mode, that they come first. They're always trying to take care of others, so I'm trying to take care of him so that he can take care of others. But it's not just me as the caretaker. Like, again, you've got to make sure you maintain yourself and your identity. So it's a big balance, and tug and war kind of thing.
In a world where we are probably 1, 2, maybe only 3 election cycles, who knows when it'll happen, from having a woman as president, and in a world where I think I just read a stat that more than half of our family incomes, the woman is the female has become the top earner, if you will, the breadwinner. Do you expect, or maybe you've already gotten it, pushback that you would accept the role as second fiddle? Because there's definitely an insecurity, I think, in some people would say, well, I'm in this equal rights era where I'm a female and I should be able to be first fiddle. I'm not going to accept second fiddle. I'm sure that's out there. Do you get that pushback? And if you do, did you expect it?
I haven't gotten that pushback, and not yet. I've actually gotten a lot more support, and not just from females, from men too that are in this position, which brings me so much joy, because the book, I wasn't it it relates heavily to females, but I wrote it because I know anyone and everyone can relate to this position. I i think I'm my own worst critic and hardest on myself, so I actually had those feelings of, well, I don't want to be this. Like, I'm writing this book, but this isn't what I want to be. I never kind of wanted to be in the background and the supporter. So I writing this out, I kind of came to a realization too that this isn't a bad thing, and I don't need to make it a bad thing. I can actually change the narrative of what second fiddle means. That this is actually an empowerment. That, yeah, the title second, you know says you're not first, but that doesn't mean you're not first. You actually have a lot more power. It just might be invisible or quiet at this point. Like, your influence is just a little different right now. That doesn't mean it's going to last the rest of your life or for very long. But this is what it looks like right now. So I'm gonna embrace it and take it and run with it.
And look, there's also, I think, a whole thought though that it's like saying, what's the most important part of the car? Oh, it's the steering wheel. Well, wait a minute. What if you don't have wheels? You can't. The wheels don't work. Okay, well, the engine, no, because you got to have wheels. So there's no most. They all work together, and I think the same can obviously in a relationship, in a marriage, it's important, and in a business, it's important. So you could make the argument there is no first fiddle without a second fiddle, and it's really not first or second. It's really more about how the team works, whether
Hmm.
it's a chorus, a family, or anything else, right?
Oh, yeah. Like, and anything that we do, it might feel very tedious or insignificant. I mean, I have those feelings daily of what I'm doing, and what we don't realize or have to constantly keep in mind is that what we are doing is helping those in the spotlight to shine. Otherwise, they couldn't. Like, things would fall apart. I mean, we are the invisible scaffolding holding them up. So without us, it wouldn't work.
What, as somebody reads your book, what are some of the most important takeaways you hope that they get from the overall idea and the overall, if you will, the framework of the book? What's important that you hope? Obviously, somebody reads something. You're the author. You probably have already learned this, that they don't always get out of it what you expect. But what do you expect someone to get out of reading it?
I hope it validates the quiet roles that people play in relationships, careers, families, sports, whatever it is, and to realize, like I'm offering, and not me, but the position offers you permission to redefine success on your own terms. I want it to resonate with anyone navigating, partnership, ambition, self-worth, or the tension of supporting others and still honoring yourself. I want you to know that, like, you're not alone. I hear you, I feel you, and to know that our influence can actually matter more than applause. Of course, everyone wants the validation and the spotlight and all that, but i I'm really hoping that they you walk away knowing you're still worth more than you think.
There's a strength to that, though. There's a strength to being, quote unquote, the second fiddle. And because there's a confidence required. I would assume if you don't approach it with confidence, then, and we all have our insecurities, and you kind of dig into those insecurities, it's going to be a self-fulfilling sort of misery. There's a lot of
Yeah.
confidence. I mean, you must talk a lot about the confidence it really requires. In some ways, there's less confidence required if you are first fiddle, because you're assumed to be that top dog breadwinner, whatever you want to say, CEO, CFO. But if you're able to take that second role and run with it, there's a strength there.
Definitely is. And I will say this, it 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 didn't come naturally. It hasn't come naturally. I was, oh my God, I mean, most of my life, very, very shy and quiet. So not a very confident person. So this has been something I personally have had to learn over the years, and my book is more or less my published journal. So I go through and I talk about my feelings of my own insecurities or frustrations or struggles, and kind of throwing myself into a fire, like, okay, well, this is kind of what you have to do. So kudos to those that have the confidence to just take this position and run with it. But I don't want to mislead people let making them think that I came out like this, like, I took the second fiddle role and it was like, no big deal, I've got this. That's not the case at all. So uh writing it really helped me grow and realize what I was going through, even though I was going through it. So it was some growing pains into this position.
So I think what you're saying is it wasn't easy, right? That you were
No, it's
you
no, it's
you
definitely
you
not
were
easy.
you
No.
were someone who had achieved things on your own. You were in life, I would assume.
Yeah.
You were
Yeah.
second
Yeah.
fiddle in your musical life, but you had achieved things on your own, and it's difficult, I think,
Definitely.
to take a back seat or that's not. So I think that's probably an important message, right? That you want people to know,
Yeah.
hey, this isn't easy.
Right. Right. I mean, and I, talking about my own identity too, my own personal things, and um it's it's almost like polar opposites, that some of the things that I do, I've been a lifestyle model for almost 15 years. So there's part of me where I'm the one that's in the spotlight. Like, I'm the one that shines. I'm the first violin in this. And then I go into the second fiddle role. So yeah, it's a very like back and forth of the one being in the spotlight and then the one behind the scenes. And I assume most people are like this. I know this about myself, especially, over the last few years, that um I am, of course, I enjoy the spotlight. I enjoy the attention. I love that part of my life, but I don't want to stay there. I really, me personally, I thrive behind the scenes in helping others. Like, I have my own thing and that's great, and I love the recognition, but I don't want to stay there. So it's been a lot of learning, and I think, people in this position, kind of, everyone's different. They're going to learn differently, they're going to feel differently, they're going to grow differently. Um but those that thrive behind the scenes and helping others know that that's where their influence is most needed and the strongest.
You mentioned it was not easy for you at first, and I'm sure it's not easy for a lot of people who accept that role at first because they're probably. And again, we go back to the whatever the insecurities, whatever it is, it's human. What was there a turning point for you when you said, I kind of get this, and by the way, I should write a book about it because I can help other people understand that role better and understand that maybe it's a misnomer to call it second fiddle. It's really not second fiddle. You're part of the team, really.
Yeah. um when I thought about the book idea and started taking notes and writing things down, and really it was when I was in the middle of writing it, is kind of when that mind shift changed. So it was recent. I didn't feel this way for a while. I mean, this is all pretty new and recent. And I think it's because when I actually took those thoughts and feelings and wrote it out and wrote it down, and even though I had experienced and lived through these situations, it was almost like a out of body experience that I was looking down on it from a different angle and writing and thought, like, okay, I can use this to my benefit. This isn't this book isn't a poor me, feel bad for me. My husband gets all the attention and I don't. Like, that's not what this is about at all. It's more empowerment of my realization of, yeah, I'm in this position right now and sometimes it sucks and I don't like it, but this is what I have to do. This is what I have to do for him. This is what I have to do for me. This is what I have to do for us right now so that we as a team and partnership can thrive.
You sound like so you're going through this process personally as someone who is in the background, and you decided to start to write a book. Did you start writing it thinking it would have a different impact than it had? In other words, did you start writing it as if this is what it's like, and it sort of became this is how you can make it something important, or this is how you can realize that, yes, that support system is just as important as the system itself? Did it change while you were writing it?
Completely. I had a totally different idea of what I thought the book was going to be, and I always wanted it to empower others, but it turned out very different than what I initially thought, and for the better. So yeah, it was different in my head until I started writing, and then it kind of
Explain the
shifted and
change. How did it
changed.
start? How did it start, and then how did it finish? And you sort of got us to the point where, in the middle of it, as you're making notes, you kind of, you're kind of come to this realization. Wait a minute, this is important. The second fiddle, however you want to say it, this is important. And you realize that as you're taking notes, because you're actually it's why we journal. That's why I journal. You write something down, you go, well, that's not that bad. Or, oh, hey, that's better than I thought, right? So you're writing stuff
Yeah.
down and you come to this realization. When you start wanting to write the book, what is the thought of it, what it's going to be? And then what did it become?
It was going to be short stories of personal experience of, a day to day or a situation or whatever. And one, I didn't think I would intertwine the musical theme throughout or musical metaphor throughout the whole book. So I didn't think I was going to do that at all. And then when I started doing that, and then I'd always come back and realize I needed to bring back focus of the importance of the second violin in the orchestral sense in music. And so then that kind of changed into, instead of just telling, stories, or it's more or less like venting about my life, it shifted into when I started talking about the importance in the music. Okay, so it's important in music, so why can't this be a lesson in life? So it kind of turned into lessons after each little story or example of how you can turn this into a benefit.
Well, I'm reading this book. It was written in 1937. It's called Think and Grow Rich. And that book talks about the importance of, and of course, this is 1937. So it talks about the importance of the wife in a relationship with, and he's talking about moguls, business moguls, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison. So, and it talks about that. And then we have the expression behind every great man is a great woman. And this, of course, is going to I don't know if sexist is the right word, but you're writing, you've said your audience is also men who have accepted that role. So it's not a new concept, really, but it's made, it seems important it's almost like maybe it is a new concept to recognize it in a heartier way, to realize First Fiddle doesn't really do as well without Second Fiddle.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And I mean, at these real estate events, I always meet the significant others of the top producer or anything. And so obviously we all have something in common, and we bond over that. And in writing this, I really wanted them to relate and picture themselves in these scenarios. So I and I wanted people in the CEO, CFO, president, whatever position to feel that book too, so that they can understand their partner or whoever that may be in their personal life and their professional life, so that they understand what their support system is feeling and going through, and so that they can learn and grow and help in whatever way they can too. So it's not just, this experience isn't just one-sided. I wanted the other side to feel too.
Well, and that's really a great point. Is if I'm reading it from the other side, what sort of surprise would it be a realization like, oh, I get it now, or is that what you're hoping for the First Fiddle to sort of get from reading about what that Second Fiddle is doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the example when Paul read my book, or I had him, read chapters when I was writing this, he would go through and uh he learned things about me, like he didn't realize what I was feeling or what I was going through in those scenarios. And it's not for a lack of, I didn't want him to know, and it might just be because I didn't know how to express it, and this was the way I finally could express it. So he would read something and say, like, wow, I had no idea you were feeling that way or going through that. And so he became more aware of when we're in, again, another situation similar, at some event or whatever. And so now he's more aware of what I go through. Then I then actually become more aware of what he's going through. Um, even though we've been through it together, there's just a new level of awareness, and that was what I was trying to portray. And I'm glad that it came across that way for us. And the response I've gotten for others, that it has translated that way for them too. So, which it made me so happy. Um, that kind of response.
What was he? Can you give us an example of what he was surprised about, and where in the book this might be?
Yeah, I talk about when we were going through the whole commission lawsuit, and his what he would express to me, his feelings and fears and stress and all that. And then I wrote what I how I responded to his feelings, like talking about how he would have sleepless nights, and, from the stress and not knowing what to do and what was going to happen and all this. And I would lie there awake, because I was stressed because of his stress. And so I knew that he couldn't sleep. He didn't know that I couldn't sleep worrying about him. So he was kind of unaware that, I'm worried too. Like I hear you, and and all that, but I don't think he fully understood that I was taking on his stress too, because I was trying to figure out what I could do to alleviate that, and then kind of knowing there wasn't much I could do, aside from the day the day-to-day things, or the things I talk about, as silly as making him breakfast or making sure he does this, but I know those things matter, over time. But just kind of feeling his weight, and he was unaware that I was taking that on.
I can see how, if I'm the reader and I'm supporting the main breadwinner, if you will, to use an older term, and I'm the reader, I can see how reading a synopsis of what you just explained would make me go, oh, you know what? I feel that too. Now okay, I get it. I'm not odd to feel that way, to feel the stress that my partner brings to this. What does the partner gain, if you will, the first fiddle? I work back to the musical analogy. What does the partner gain? What did your husband gain from realizing that?
I think more aware of my feelings. So I think a closeness, like that, he doesn't have to go through it alone. Also, probably closeness and a little bit of guilt that I was feeling that stress. He wants to protect me from that. Just another level of closeness
Yeah,
that, good or bad.
that makes sense. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're seeing your world through someone else's
Mhm.
eyes. And I think
Mhm.
on a general term, if you're able to get the first fiddle to read this as much as the second fiddle, or maybe the husband and wife or the partner, whatever, the partners, they both read it. That the person
Mhm.
who maybe is the so-called first fiddle can now, there is a close, I can see the closeness. I can get that because
Mhm.
now you're like, oh, my life, it's not just out there how I'm approaching the world. The family I have back, that I'm impacting them as well as I deal with all the challenges of my business, whatever that business is.
Yeah, I had a couple people come up and say that um they read it not as the second fiddle, but as someone in the spotlight so that they could better understand their partner and what they go through on a day-to-day basis. Um, which I think is so important. So I love that people were approaching it that way, that they don't just see the title and think, well, this isn't for me, because that's not who,
Because I'm a
I'm.
first fiddle. Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah, yeah. So wanting to understand others and what they go through.
Your book, how long has it been published now?
Oh, not very long. It's, let's see, 3 months now, almost 4 months.
And are you getting reaction, first of all? And then if you're getting that reaction, is anything in the reactions you've gotten, the comments, does anything surprise you?
The reactions have been overwhelming and very positive, and I'm so grateful for all of that, and it was more than I ever expected. I don't know what I expected, but it's above and beyond, and I think it's those that relate to it, but what really surprises me in a very positive way are those that didn't expect to enjoy the book, really enjoyed it and really saw value in it, and really love the vulnerability and and my, my style of writing, aside from just the theme of the book, but could relate in a less obvious way. So I'm grateful for the amount of support I've had for this. I mean, in just a few months, it's incredible. So it's more than I ever imagined. And I hope that momentum keeps going. So, we'll see.
That must feel great to put something out
Yeah.
there. And we have about a minute left. Is there anything we haven't touched on that you want people to know about Second Fiddle, or just the philosophy behind it?
The outside success and the glamour of a very suggested charmed life. This book reveals the quieter truths, the invisibility, the imbalance, the devotion, and identity shifts that often go unspoken. And it's a reflection of partnership and self-worth and courage it takes to honor your own voice while supporting someone else's.
Awesome. Kate Benson joining us from Scottsdale, Arizona, where it's warmer than Rhode Island. And the name of the book is Second Fiddle. Kate Benson is the author. Kate, thanks for joining us here on Wealth Architect. And it sounds like a great idea. And I can see the value in it, whether you are first fiddle, second fiddle, leadoff hitter, cleanup hitter, however you want, whatever metaphor you want to use. I see the value. Yeah. I really do. And I think it's a great idea for a book. And and it seems like it's taking off. So that's great. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Kate.
When you're considering buying a home or a condo or even an investment property, it's so important to hire the right home inspector. Specifically, if you're in Rhode Island, the home inspector that I always like to recommend is Mike Auger of Patriot Home Inspections, homeinspectorri.com. Why do I use Mike? Number one, he's not an alarmist. He's not going to scare you. He's going to walk you through everything you need to know about the house. You can follow him around like a puppy dog. Ask as many questions as you can. He'll tell you how the heating system works, how the electrical works, how the plumbing is, and he could save you thousands of dollars or even a future headache. If you are looking to sell a home, it's important to disclose as much information as you can ahead of time, and Mike Ogren can put together a pre-list home inspection report, so when your realtor represents you and gives the buyer's agent the report, everything is disclosed that needs to get fixed, and the price is the price, and you sell your home like that. There's so many benefits to using the right home inspector, and again, Mike Auger with Patriot Home Inspectors, homeinspectorri.com. Check them out. Today on the Wealth Architect podcast, we're joined by someone whose work has impacted millions of people all around the world, Hal Elrod. Hal is an international keynote speaker, success coach, and the best-selling author of The Miracle Morning, a book that has sold millions of copies globally and has translated into dozens of languages. His work has helped entrepreneurs, business leaders, and everyday individuals take control of their mornings and ultimately their lives. What makes Hal's story especially powerful, it's not just built on success, but overcoming extreme adversity. He survived a near-fatal car accident early in his life, lost his baby sister at a very young age, later on faced financial collapse during the recession, and was even diagnosed with a rare and aggressive form of cancer where he was given very low odds of survival. Through each of these challenges, Hal rebuilt his life by mastering his mindset, his habits, and most importantly, how he shows up each morning. Today, we're diving into his concept of the 6-minute morning ritual built around his Savers framework, a simple yet transformative system designed to elevate your focus, productivity, and overall success before most people even start their day. Hal, welcome to the show.
Emilio, it is great to see you again, brother. We were in person here just, a month or two ago.
Yeah, it was awesome to meet you, Hal. I loved your keynote speech. So, Hal, for someone hearing this the first time, why is the way we start our morning so critical to our financial success and overall life trajectory?
It's really simple when you think about it, which is simply that how we start our day sets the tone, the context, and the direction for the rest of the day. And it begins with our mindset. If you start the day focusing on your goals, affirming what you're capable of, maybe doing a little exercise to get the blood and oxygen flowing to your body, put yourself in a peak physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual state, you're able to show up at your best for your work, for your family, for yourself. And so that's really it. So the quality of your morning really ultimately determines and impacts the quality of your life.
Win the morning, win the day. What does that actually look like in practice for high performers?
So the Miracle Morning was not a book idea. This was my own personal ritual that I created kind of in a moment of desperation. It was 2008. The economy had crashed. Anybody who was around during that time, can probably relate to a lot of financial struggles. I lost over half of my clients in my coaching business, lost over half my income, had my house foreclosed on, and kind of was at a rock bottom in a pivotal moment. And I heard a quote from Jim Rohn that really set things in motion. Jim Rohn said, "Your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development." In other words, the way you develop yourself each and every day to optimize your mindset, your habits, your beliefs, etc., determine who you become, which determines what you're capable of creating in your life. And so I just went online and I Googled, what do the world's most successful people do for personal development? And I was looking for one daily practice that I could implement, and I landed on 6 practices, and they were the most timeless, proven personal development practices in humanity. I mean, they're nothing new here. It was
They're ancient.
these are the Savers acronym, by the way, right? SAVERS. So the first S is for silence. That's prayer, meditation, breath work. It's calming your nervous system, getting centered and focused for the day. The A is for affirmations, and not the goofy kind that we were taught, like affirming, I'm a money magnet and money's going to flow to me effortlessly, but
Yeah.
really affirming things that are in alignment with what you want, why you want it, and what you're committed to doing to ensure that you become and achieve the thing. So what you affirm repeatedly becomes your reality. The V
Sure.
in Sabres is for visualization. And just like the world's greatest athletes mentally rehearse showing up at their best before they step onto the court or onto the field, we can do the same before we step into the office or into the kitchen with our family.
Mhm.
The E in Sabres is exercise. You don't have to go to the gym in the morning, but you got to move your body to get the blood flowing and the oxygen flowing so that you elevate, you release endorphins, you feel better, you have more mental clarity. The R in Sabres is for reading, which is a fancy, or, it's like we're all one book away from anything you want to learn. In 2008, I
Right.
read a book on how to get more clients. I used the rest of the savers to put myself in a peak state every day to implement what I learned. And I doubled my income in 2 months in 2008. And the final S in Savers is for scribing, which is a fancy word for writing, right? But journaling each day, what are you grateful for? What are you stressed out about that you need to put on paper to create some distance between you and the thing that you're worried about? And then
Mhm.
what's your number one priority for the day that'll move the needle in your life or your business? Those 6 practices, any one of the savers will change your life. But when you do all 6, to quote my friend Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, he said, Hal, you named the book correctly because any one of the savers will change your life. But he said, my experience has been now that I do all 6 of these each day, which Robert does the Miracle Morning every day, he
I love it.
says, I'm experiencing miracles in my business, my health, and my marriage. And so they're universally applicable for anyone.
So there's a lot of people, we've all heard them, they don't have time. They don't have time to do these things. How does compressing savers into just 6 minutes still create real impact?
Yeah, so the 6-minute miracle morning was something that I came up with for myself before it was ever a
Mhm.
book. And it was happening because I have, like most of us, this all or nothing mentality where I'd go, well, I like to do an hour-long miracle morning. Most people do 30 minutes. Some people do 60. I like the full 60. And so any day that I couldn't do the full 60, I would usually not do it. And
Yeah.
I remember one morning, I was like, I got to leave in 15 minutes. Can't do my miracle morning. And then it just hit me. I go, wait a minute. What if I just did 1 minute for each of the savers? And so I sat down on my couch in my living room where I do my miracle morning,
Smart.
got my journal and my book and my affirmations printed out. Everything's in front of me. And I sit there for 60 seconds of silence and I just pray and I thank God and little kind of meditation. And I just get grounded and centered for the day. Timer goes off gently and turn it off. And I pull out my affirmations and I just read a few statements that remind me, Hal, this is what you're committed to in your life. And this is why, and this is what you're going to do to get there. Like stay focused on what matters most. It only took
Mhm.
me a minute to read those and I was refocused on my top priorities. Then I closed my eyes and visualized myself doing what I needed to do today while imagining it in a peak state. I was feeling good and confident. It only took a minute. I was primed and ready to go. Then I stood off the couch for exercise. I did 60 seconds of jumping jacks and I was like, blood was flowing, oxygen was flowing. I felt great. I grabbed a book and I read one page and I grabbed one idea that I could implement that day to create real results in my life. Then I pulled out my journal for the final and the 6th and final minute. And I just wrote down one thing I was grateful for, my wife. And I put my hand on my heart and I just closed my eyes and I spent 30 seconds just smiling and feeling gratitude. That only
Wow.
took 6 minutes, and I elevated my state of consciousness beyond what it was before I did that. And I realized I don't want to do only 6 minutes on most days. I want to go deeper. But I realized I have never have an excuse to not do my miracle morning when I can literally do all 6 savers in 6 minutes and improve my physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual state for the rest of the day.
What's the biggest mistake people make when they're trying to implement savers?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest mistake comes from before they even try to implement savers with a limiting belief that a lot of us have, which is I'm not a morning person. Like
Yeah.
this, I'm sure this works for some people, but I'm not a morning person, so I don't even want to try it because it would get me out of my comfort zone. I don't want to wake up early. Couple things I would say to that. Number one is we have surveyed, there are millions of Miracle Morning readers and practitioners around the world, and we survey them multiple times a year. One of the questions we usually ask on the survey that we've asked for over a decade, were you a morning person before you read the book, or did the book show you how to become a morning person? 72% of our community has said that on average, I did not think I could become a morning person before I read the book. The book is what
Yeah.
taught me how to do it. It literally holds your hand through the psychology of becoming a morning person. And I want to say this, the reason that I believe we tell ourselves that we're not morning people is, think about this. Emilio, when we were growing up, we were forced to wake up by our parents for school day in and day out while our brains were still forming. From age
Mhm.
5 to 18, majority of us, we didn't get out of bed because we wanted to. We got out of bed because we had to. And because our
Yes.
parents were forcing us out of bed, and when given the chance to sleep in, we took it every chance we got. As our brains were developing, we developed this limiting belief that goes, I'm not a morning person. I don't like mornings. And then when we leave home, we're like when I was in college, man, I played video games till 3, 4 in the morning, slept until my 11 a.m. class, literally designed my schedule to not be a morning person.
Yes.
But then I realized at some point you go,
That's
hey,
right.
I got to grow up. If I want to create the best life that I possibly can and achieve my financial goals and all my goals, I've got to start every day in a peak mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual state so that I can show up at my best for the rest of the day. So that's really why we're not morning people. And the biggest obstacle people have is that limiting belief where they're like, it's not for me. But if you realize, no, most people that do their miracle morning every day or have a more morning routine, they weren't morning people when they started because they had to overcome that lifetime of programming where they resisted waking up in the morning to realize it's actually one of the most liberating decisions that you can make in your life.
So most people listening, they may think like, well, okay, I understand that, but why the morning? Why not the middle of the night or the middle of the day?
No, that's a great question I get a lot is like, how the savers are, I get that. Those are 6 proven practices, but can't I do them on my lunch break or can't I do them before bed?
Yeah.
The answer is yes, and the morning is optimal. And here's why. The benefits from each of the savers are scientifically proven to occur. There are immediate benefits that last after you do the savers. So, for example, there are over 1,400 scientific studies that prove the benefits of meditation. The physiological benefits, it literally lowers your cortisol level. It
Mm.
takes your body out of fight or flight and calms your nervous system. So it sets you up to get the most out of the other savers, right? If you
Mhm.
wait to meditate until the evening, you've lived your entire day in a reactive state. You've missed out on those benefits. Same thing with affirmations. Like you said, those redirect your mindset. They focus your beliefs and your behaviors as soon as you're reading them. You don't want to miss out on those benefits all day long and wait until the evening. Same thing with exercise. In the Miracle Morning movie, those that haven't seen it, you can watch it free on YouTube. It's a
It's great.
feature-length documentary that features Mel Robbins, Brendan Burchard, Robin Sharma, Robert Kiyosaki. Robin Sharma said in the movie, the benefits of exercise are scientifically proven to last as long as 13 hours after the initial exercise.
It's
So you have
huge.
mental clarity, your emotions are improved, your emotional
Mhm.
state, and you have more physical energy. Again, when you do that in the morning, you benefit all day long. If you read something in the morning, right? So a lot of people will do they're like a 30-minute or a 60-minute miracle morning in the morning, and then they'll do like a 6-minute right before bed. So they're priming their subconscious right before they go to bed. So it's a yes and, but to not do it in the morning, you're missing out on the benefits all day long.
If someone listening today commits to the 6-minute miracle morning starting tomorrow, what can they realistically expect to see in their lives in the next 30 days?
So you can expect that you're going to wake up and start every day in a highly effective state, and that's going to affect your mental and emotional well-being and your results. Whatever you focus your savers on, for me, it was doubling my income. I did it in 2 months. Then it was running an ultra marathon, and I ran 500 miles in the 6 months, and then I did it right. Then it was beating cancer. Like, whatever my number one goal is, that's the primary focus of my savers, but I also have all of my goals in there. I'm doing all my affirmations, but my number one goal is what I'm reading a book on, right? It's the top of my affirmations. But here's the second way I would answer that question. When I give a speech, right? So I speak at companies all over the world about the miracle morning, how a company, well, I was at your company, right?
Yes.
But when I end my speech, I teach the savers during the speech, but I end the speech and I say, here's what I recommend. If you're brand new to the miracle morning, you don't need to wake up and try all 6 savers tomorrow morning. I would pick one, the one that is the most appealing to you. And my personal recommendation is the easiest is the R reading. So if you've never read the miracle morning, wake up 10 minutes earlier and brush your teeth, grab some water, and start reading the miracle morning. And then after, depending on how fast you read, after, a few days or a week, you get to the chapter on silence. And now you're like, I'm only waking up 10 minutes earlier. It's easy. And I don't have to even think about it. I just open the book and read, and it's shifting your mindset. It's helping you believe you can do this. And when we get to the chapter on silence, add silence to your next miracle morning, just a minute of it, right? So you got a minute of silence, a few minutes of reading. And then a few days later, you get to the chapter on affirmations, and you add that into your miracle morning. But now, because you only started with one of the savers, you only woke up 5 or 10 minutes earlier, all of it is in the book. So if you just start with the R, that is the one saver that will unlock all of the others.
Hal, thank you again so much.
Thank you, Emilio. Appreciate you, brother.
You're welcome. God bless you, man. Thank you again. And hopefully we'll see you soon.